basic parts of a sentence and tell something about it. Anyone from the class? Yes?
The two basic parts of a sentence are subject and predicate. The subject may be a noun or pronoun, and the predicate may be an adjective, but most of the time, it is verb.
Very good. Now, who can tell me how are the subject and the predicate related to each other? Yes?
A subject is any object, whom or what the sentence is all about, while the predicate tells about the action being performed by the subject.
Very good. You are now ready for our next discussion. The reason why I asked you about the basic parts of a sentence, which is the subject and the predicate, it is because in today's discussion, we will be tackling about the subject-verb agreement and the rules that govern it. Now, what is the subject-verb agreement? The subject and verb agreement is a rule that the subject needs to agree with its verb in terms of quantity or number. Remember, class, that the subject and verb agreement has its basic rule. A singular subject requires a singular verb. A plural subject requires a plural verb. Okay, when we speak about singular, it means that there is only one subject being tackled in a sentence. On the other hand, when we speak about plural, it means there are two or more present subjects being discussed in a sentence, right? Let's take a look at this example. The S form or the singular form of verbs includes sings, dances, writes, and eats. While the basic form includes sing, dance, write, and eat without S. It was mentioned that the subject-verb agreement has its basic rule, right? So if a subject is singular, then the verb must also be in its singular form. You can add S, ES, or IES to the verb when it is used with a singular subject. Try to look at this example. Andres makes the canes and pans. So the subject here is Andres, which is singular, followed with an S form of a verb, makes. Okay, the next example, his father carries bundles of rattan every morning. So the subject here is the father, which is singular, follows with a singular form of a verb, carries. The S form carries came from a base form carry, which changed Y to IES to become a singular form.
Aside from the basic rules, there are also rules in special cases. Firstly, when one subjects connected by or nor are singular, then the verb to be used must also be singular. Conversely, when one subjects are plural, then the verb to be used must also be plural. Let's try to look at these examples. An athlete or a singer practices regularly. Notice that the singular subject athlete and singer connected by the word or uses a singular verb practices. Another example. Fruits and juices sell well in the summer. In this sentence, notice that the subject fruits and juices are in plural form. Therefore, it uses the plural form of verb sell. Next rule. If the correlative either and or neither and nor is used, the subject closer to the verb determines the verb to be used. Example. Either Mark or the class representatives are going to the meeting. In this sentence, there are two subjects. Mark as subject number 1 is in singular form, and the class representatives as subject number 2 is in plural form. Since the subject class representatives is closer to the verb, therefore it must use a plural verb are. Another example. Neither the singers nor the trainer is going to perform later. In this, the subject trainer, which is closer to the verb, is in singular form. Therefore, the verb must be in singular form. Let's
proceed to rule number 3. When we have a compound subject joined by the word and, we typically use a plural verb. Say for example, we have here our first sentence. Andres and his brother are going to the basketball court. So, as I have said, Andres and his brother is joined by the word and. This is typically because they are considered separately. Andres and his brother. To further understand, let's break down the sentence. Here, Andres and his brother are two separate individuals, so we are going to use the word are, not is. Andres and his brother are going to the basketball court. However, there is an exception to this rule. If the subject joined by the word and are seen as single unit or pair, we are going to use the singular verb. We have here an example of sentence. The flowers and the trees sway with the wind. And in this sentence, flowers and trees are considered together as part of the nature's sway. So we use the singular word sway, not sways. The flower and the trees sway with the wind. Now, let's recall. Singular verb are used when subjects joined by the word and act as a single unit or pair. Now, when using the plural verb, we need to make sure that subjects joined by the word and are distinct individuals or things. Let's proceed to rule number 4, the intervening phrase or clause. A phrase or clause that separates the subject from the verb does not affect the subject or the subject-verb agreement. In this case, you need to pay attention to the subject to determine the verb or the form of the verb. Let's give an example of this rule. First, the leader of the protesters raises his arm. And next, the siblings who the crowd saw inside the office make their way to the court.
Rule number 5. The following indefinite pronouns use verbs in their singular form, such as 1, anybody, anyone, everybody, everyone, everything, and more. The following indefinite pronouns, on the other hand, use verbs in their plural form, both, few, many, and several. Now, let's analyze the examples. One of my brothers is with the Manila Railroad Company. In this sentence, the indefinite pronoun, 1, uses a singular verb is to agree with the subject, brothers. Next, both of the things are clean. In this sentence, the indefinite pronoun both uses a plural verb are to agree with the subject, case. This is because one refers to a single entity, one brother, while both refers to two entities, the two cases. So, when using these indefinite pronouns, we need to match their number with the corresponding verb forms. By following this rule, you can ensure that your writing is grammatically correct and easier to understand. To conclude, always remember the basic rule. Singular subject requires singular verb, and the plural subject requires a plural verb. Also, remember the subject-verb agreement rules in special cases. Those are: rule number 1, when both subjects connected by or nor are singular, then the verb to be used must also be singular. Conversely, when both subjects are plural, then the verb to be used must also be plural. Rule number 2. If the correlative either, or neither, nor is used, the subject closer to the verb determines the verb to be used. Rule number 3. A compound subject joined by and generally has a plural verb. Rule number 4. An intervening phrase or clause, or a phrase or clause that separates the subject from the verb does not affect the subject-verb agreement. In this case, always pay attention to the subject to determine the form of the verb. Rule number 5. The following indefinite pronouns use verbs in their singular form, such as one, anybody, anyone, everybody, and each. The following indefinite pronouns, on the other hand, use verbs in their plural form, both, few, many, and several.